Hey YouTube, it's Patriotic Rottweiler. On to the next adventure with the Ford Model 1910. This is a 1986. I was able to figure that out from the serial number and the stampings and the serial number on the plate. So, okay, so last month I had a very slow leak in the left rear tire. Part of the problem is it was the original tire and it had a bunch of holes in it from where the rubber had just deteriorated. So I got on eBay and bought this BKT 13.6 by 24 tire and a inner tube, and FedEx actually delivered it right to my gate. So I was quite happy about that. But in the meantime, the majority of the problem is that the wheel had rusted out where the valve stem comes through. So you could probably see it. Once I got the wheel off, I took it to a tire shop that handles semi-trucks and larger equipment, and had them take it apart. So I took the wheel and the old tube to a welding shop, and they welded in a patch over the rusted spot and also made it to where the new tube would fit through the little opening. So I put a little touch-up paint on it. Of course, this is just going to immediately get dirty because, as you can tell, I've got the bush hog still on this tractor, and it's just going to get dirty. The color, in case anybody else wants to touch up their equipment, is Ford Gray. It looks kind of white, but they call it Ford Gray. So that was last month. I got the wheel and tire and everything back on. Those lug nuts are 15/16, and I used a electric impact that I have, 1/2 inch, and zipped them right on there, no problem. And so that was last month. So this month and this past weekend, I was bush hogging, and the tractor started conking out. It would just bog down for no apparent reason. So I thought it would be a fuel filter. I just replaced it, as y'all probably saw in my last video in December of 18. So I had just replaced that. So I was able to get it back home, look at the filter, and there was a bunch of stuff in the sediment bowl, and I'll go around on the other side and show you that. It wasn't completely full, so it wasn't like there wasn't diesel in the fuel bowl. So what I figured is it was sediment, and it was getting clogged right at the top of the shutoff valve. So there was stuff in the tank. So I would assume this tank has never been replaced or pulled off or cleaned or anything. So I went about doing that. It's really pretty simple. You have this bracket that goes around. It's a big U shape. There's a 13 millimeter on the bottom on each side. So you do that. You pull off your return. You disconnect your sending unit wire. Those were quick connect disconnect type. So that was easy. And of course you take off the hose that goes to your fuel filter, and it comes right off. It does have a little weight. You do want to drain it because it is heavy if you've got 9 gallons in it. So I called a buddy of mine who helps me with tractor stuff a lot, and he told me to put gas in it and slosh it around a whole lot and clean it that way. So that's what I did. I did it with gas. I used some vinegar. I even sprayed it with a water hose, trying to dislodge a bunch of the sediment that had built up in the bottom of the tank. So I got it as clean as humanly possible and put it back together. And when I was talking to the guy who works on some of my equipment whenever I don't work on it, he told me to go and get some of the Power Service clear diesel, which we did. My wife was able to find it really cheap. These things, this 80-ounce bottle on Amazon goes for like 36 bucks. She was getting these at the local automotive store for like $3 or $4. I guess they were trying to get rid of them, or I don't know what their deal was, but hey, I told her to buy all she could. So I have enough to last me for a while. Another side note, one of these big metal funnels is really great to have when you're doing any of this. You're filling up your fuel tank, or you don't want to slosh fuel all over the place. Getting one of those is really handy. As you can see, there's the information on it. I'm sure there's other manufacturers, but that one there works for me. I've got 2 of them actually. And if you haven't done the modification to your gas cans, and if you can, I've put metal valve stems in mine to have an air so it can vent correctly without all the EPA garbage. Now, of course, this can is a little older, but all of my cans I've modified the same way. You can buy those metal valve stems for $5 or however much they are on eBay, and it's really easy to do. There's a bunch of videos on how to install those on YouTube, so check those out. But so I got the I went ahead and ordered a new fuel filter, put it in yesterday. I had to bleed the injectors like I talked about in the last video, and there are ways to do it. When you 17 millimeter, so you have the injectors, so right there, so I would just barely crack that open and the air could come out. You want to turn the engine over and it'll try to crank, but it won't successfully run for any real length of time. It'll bog down and shut off, and that's how you know you still got air in the system. So I would do one. I started here and I was getting the most air out of the front one, and then I would hit the other 2, and once you got it bled out of all the air, it started running like a top again. So I had to go back to where I was bush hogging because I only had a little bit left to go. So drove it back over there, finished bush hogging, drove it back, and it's been running fine ever since. So if you do have to remove your tank, it's really not that big of a deal. Like I said, there's a 13 millimeter on this side. There's one on the other side. It's a big U shape. As you can see, that rod that goes across the top. And you just take that off, disconnect your hoses and the electrical connection for the sending unit, and it's ready to come off. There's no other bolts or brackets or anything else. One other thing I did do is there was rubber bushings on the front of this, and it might be hard to see. There you go. Well, they were deteriorated completely. So I got a quarter inch piece of rubber mat that I had, and I cut it down to 3.5 inches by 8 inches and used that for a cushion on there, and it just held in with the gravity and the bolts of the tank holding the tank down. So but it's working good. I haven't had any problems with that since I installed that the other day either. So that's it for this video. If you have any questions, post them in the comment section below, and make sure you check out some of my other videos if you want. All right, bye.